Signs that you should cut all contact with someone. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling heavier than when you entered? Have you ever stopped to think that maybe some relationships are draining your energy instead of enriching it? In today's video, we're going to explore the 12 clear signs that you should cut ties with someone who does this, guided by the principles of Stoicism. This knowledge can not only protect your inner peace, but also radically transform your daily interactions. Let's dive together into this journey of self-awareness and emotional liberation. Let's start with the concept of respect. Respect. That word carries immense weight and unparalleled depth, doesn't it? Considered one of the fundamental pillars for interpersonal relationships, respect goes far beyond simple acts of kindness. It is rooted in how we perceive and value others, reflecting a profound understanding of each individual's intrinsic dignity. But what does it really mean to respect someone? Respect is seeing the other as a whole being, with rights, feelings, and perspectives of their own. It is the ability to listen attentively, even when our opinions diverge. Epictetus, a wise Stoic, teaches us that it is not what happens to us, but our response to what happens to us that hurts us. Imagine, then, if each of us applied this philosophy in our daily interactions, recognizing that each person reacts from their own history and context. An environment where every voice is valued, every opinion is considered, and every person is seen in their entirety would become not only possible but natural. How can we cultivate and demonstrate respect in our daily lives? Small gestures mean a lot. For example, listening attentively while someone speaks without interrupting or judging is already a powerful way to show respect. And what about making an effort to understand the contexts and experiences that shape each person's worldviews? This not only enriches our understanding, but also strengthens community bonds. Each of us has a unique story, full of struggles and achievements, sorrows and joys. By sharing these personal narratives, we not only humanize our experiences, but also inspire others to do the same. And in doing so, we strengthen a culture of respect and empathy. I invite you then to reflect on how you can be agents of change in your own circles. How can we, together, create a more respectful and inclusive environment in our homes, workplaces, and communities? Every step we take in this direction, no matter how small, is a step towards a fairer and more harmonious world. So as we move forward, let's always keep in mind the importance of respect. Let's strive to be that positive example, that beacon of dignity and understanding. How about being the change we want to see in the world? Let's go together in every conversation, every encounter, every decision, guiding our actions by mutual respect. And thus, step by step, we will build a society that values and celebrates human diversity. How about embarking on this journey with me? 2. Effects of disrespect. When respect is absent from our interactions, the consequences can be profoundly harmful, both for individuals and for the community. Have you all ever noticed how an environment lacking respect can become toxic and unsustainable? Yeah, disrespect, especially when it happens repeatedly, can erode the foundations of our relationships, affecting not only how we feel about others, but also how we see ourselves. Just imagine for a moment being in a place where your opinions are constantly ignored or ridiculed. Or think about what it would be like to be surrounded by people who don't value your presence or your contributions. That can trigger a series of adverse emotional reactions, like sadness, anxiety, and even a sense of isolation. However, as Seneca advises us, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. This thought invites us to consider that even in the most challenging environments, we can be the source of kindness and respect that we aspire to see in others. By doing so, we not only mitigate the negative effects of disrespect, but also cultivate a more positive and respectful culture. Moreover, a lack of respect can lead to conflicts, reducing the effectiveness of communication and hindering collaboration. In work environments, for example, this not only decreases productivity, but can also increase employee turnover, because no one wants to stay in a place where they feel undervalued. Now let's reflect together. How do you feel when treated with disrespect? And how do you think others feel when disrespected by you, even unintentionally? These questions are crucial for us to begin to understand the impact of our actions and to motivate positive change. 3. Self-protection and distance. Distancing oneself from toxic environments is more than a self-protection strategy. It's an essential act of self-care to preserve our mental health and overall well-being. Have you all ever noticed how much lighter we feel when we step away from situations that cause us discomfort or pain? It's like lifting a weight off our shoulders, isn't it? In this context, it's crucial to recognize that some dynamics, whether at work, in friendships, or even in family relationships, can be detrimental to our emotional balance. These dynamics, often saturated with disrespect and lack of empathy, can lead us to a state of constant anxiety, stress, or sadness. And that's where the importance of knowing when and how to distance ourselves comes in. The decision to step away doesn't have to be seen as an escape, but rather as a conscious choice for one's own health and inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher emperor, teaches us, "You have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This reflection is fundamental in the context of distancing ourselves from toxic dynamics. By developing a strong self-awareness, we better understand our limits and learn to exert control over how we respond to adverse situations, not over the situations themselves. Moreover, setting clear boundaries is a powerful way to protect your personal space. Communicating these boundaries clearly and respectfully to others can help reduce misunderstandings and minimize the impact of toxic behaviors. It doesn't require confrontation. Often just expressing your needs and expectations is enough to promote significant changes. And don't forget, my Stoic friends, to cultivate relationships and environments that are nurturing and positive. Surrounding yourself with people who respect, understand, and support you is essential for maintaining robust mental health. These relationships are the refuge where we can recover from adversities and recharge our energies. Now, I invite you to reflect. What changes can you make today to protect yourself from toxic dynamics? How can you strengthen your own well-being by keeping a distance from environments that don't positively contribute to your life? Remember, every step we take towards self-care brings us closer to a more fulfilling and satisfying life. 4. Setting boundaries. Setting boundaries in our relationships is crucial, not only for our emotional health, but also for fostering an environment of mutual respect. Have you all ever noticed how much safer and respected you feel when boundaries are clear and understood by everyone? It's a solid foundation for any kind of human interaction, whether at work, at home, or in our friendships. Clear boundaries are like guideposts that steer our interactions, helping us understand how far we can go and what is expected in return. But how can we establish these boundaries effectively and respectfully? First and foremost, it's essential to have self-awareness. Understanding your own needs, values, and what you consider acceptable or unacceptable in a relationship is the starting point. Epictetus reminds us, "Let's not disturb ourselves with things beyond the power of our will." This teaching can help us focus on what we can really control, our own boundaries and how we communicate them to others. Once you are aware of your own boundaries, clear and direct communication becomes the next crucial step. It's important to express your boundaries to others clearly and assertively without being aggressive. For example, if you don't feel comfortable discussing certain topics, it's perfectly acceptable to express that by saying something like, "I'd rather not discuss this topic. Can we talk about something else?" Furthermore, it's important to be consistent. Maintaining boundaries is not just about setting them once, it's about respecting them and ensuring they are respected continuously. This may require you to reaffirm your boundaries periodically, especially if you feel they are being disregarded. But why is this so vital? Because when boundaries are respected, it creates an environment where everyone feels safe and valued. This reduces emotional wear and tear and increases mutual trust, allowing relationships to flourish healthily. Let's reflect. How are the boundaries in your own relationships currently? Are there areas where perhaps these boundaries need to be reassessed or reinforced? This is the perfect time to consider these questions and act accordingly. So, my friends, I encourage you to see setting boundaries not as an obstacle but as a way to cultivate mutual respect and care. Are you ready to take this step? 5. Negative impacts on mental health. Have you ever noticed how negative relationships can not only affect our mood, but also manifest physically in our bodies? It's surprising but true. The emotional stress caused by toxic interactions can lead to a range of physical symptoms, such as lack of energy, difficulty sleeping, and even digestive problems. When we are involved in negative relationships, our bodies go into a constant state of alert, as if we are always ready to face a threat. This is due to the activation of the stress response system, known as fight or flight. While this system is crucial for our survival, when activated for prolonged periods, it can have devastating effects on our physical and mental health. For example, lack of energy is a common symptom that is often dismissed as simple tiredness. However, it can be an indicator that we are carrying a heavy emotional burden. Our body is telling us that it needs a break, that it needs to recover from continuous tension. Insomnia is another symptom that often arises when we are dealing with unresolved worries or conflicts. The mind becomes so restless with thoughts and concerns that finding peace for restful sleep becomes a daunting task. Have you noticed how a poorly slept night can affect your entire day? Furthermore, digestive problems can also be a physical reflection of emotional tensions. Stress can alter the way our digestive system processes food, leading to symptoms such as indigestion, constipation, or even diarrhea. Now let's reflect together. How often do we ignore these physical signs, continuing to subject ourselves to environments we know are harmful? It is crucial to start paying attention to these symptoms as valid indicators that something is not right in our emotional environment. So what can we do to minimize these impacts? First, recognizing and accepting that these sensations are real and meaningful is a big step. Additionally, seeking effective strategies to manage stress, such as engaging in physical activities, meditation, or even therapy, can help alleviate both physical and emotional symptoms. I invite each of you to consider what is weighing on your emotional and physical health. Is it time to make changes, to seek environments and relationships that promote your well-being? Every step we take towards self-care is an investment in a healthier and fuller life. Let's start taking better care of ourselves today. How about taking that first step now? 6. Behaviors that drain. Relationships that constantly leave us feeling exhausted and drained are a warning sign we shouldn't ignore. Have you ever felt this way? Like each interaction takes a little more of your energy, to the point where you feel completely depleted at the end of the day. This ongoing exhaustion can be a clear indication that we are dealing with a harmful relationship. Draining behaviors in relationships often include a series of toxic dynamics, such as emotional manipulation, lack of respect for personal boundaries, and constant criticism. These patterns not only consume our emotional energy, but can also have a significant impact on our self-esteem and overall well-being. For example, when someone constantly demands your attention, time, and resources without consideration for your well-being, you may find yourself in a state of emotional exhaustion. Similarly, relationships where there is constant criticism can make you doubt your abilities and self-worth, leading to a vicious cycle of trying to please the other person, often without success. So what can we do to protect ourselves from these toxic dynamics? First, it is crucial to recognize the signs. If you regularly feel more tired and discouraged after interactions with certain people, it is important to take these feelings seriously. Marcus Aurelius advises us, "The best way to defend yourself is to not be like the one who harms you." This reflection encourages us not to adopt toxic behaviors in response to adversity, but rather to maintain our integrity and distance when necessary. Remember the practical strategies that can help: self-assessment, setting boundaries, effective communication, self-care. Finally, I want you to remember, you have the right to walk away from relationships that are harmful. Life is too short to be spent in the company of those who constantly drain us. Are you ready to take a step towards greater well-being? Finally, I want you to remember, you have the right to walk away from relationships that are harmful. Life is too short to be spent in the company of those who constantly drain us. Are you ready to take a step towards greater well-being? Let's cultivate relationships together that uplift and strengthen us. How about starting this change today? 7. Manipulation. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to identify when we're being manipulated? Emotional manipulation is a form of psychological influence that aims to alter the behavior or perception of another person through deceptive or abusive tactics. This type of behavior can be as subtle as a morning mist that, without us realizing, completely envelops us. Imagine you're in a relationship where gradually you begin to question your own decisions, feelings, and even your sanity. This is no mere coincidence. It's the result of being in continuous contact with someone who uses words and actions to distort your reality. Manipulative people are masters at using guilt, fear, and obligation to control others. Often, manipulators make their victims feel responsible for the emotional well-being of the manipulator, diverting focus from their own needs and feelings. You may be wondering, but how can I protect myself from this harmful influence? The answer begins with awareness. Recognizing the signs is the first step. Seneca offers us a valuable perspective here. No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is within their power not to desire what they do not have and gladly make use of the things that come their way. This idea teaches us to value our own emotional independence and not to overly rely on external approvals and judgments, thus protecting ourselves against manipulation attempts. Furthermore, it is crucial to establish clear boundaries. Healthy boundaries can be both a protection and an affirmation of your dignity and self-worth. When you say no to unreasonable demands, you not only protect your integrity, but also send a clear message that your emotional and psychological space deserves respect. Now, I would like to share with you a personal story. Once, I met someone who seemed charming at first, but over time, I noticed a series of unreasonable expectations being imposed on me. It was as if every yes I said, the further away from myself I felt. It was a painful process, but learning to recognize these patterns allowed me to finally step away and seek healthier relationships. I encourage each of you to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt trapped in a web of manipulation? How did you react? And more importantly, how did you recover and find your way back to your true essence? Talk about your experiences. Dialogue is a powerful healing tool. By sharing our stories, we not only help ourselves, but also can illuminate the path for others who may be facing similar situations. Remember, knowledge is the key to freedom. Curiosity about our own interactions and the world around us is what allows us to grow, evolve, and above all, protect ourselves. Stay curious, question the status quo, and never stop seeking truth in your lives and relationships. 8. Lack of trust. When we talk about the foundations of a meaningful relationship, one element stands out as fundamental: trust. Without it, we find ourselves on unstable ground, where every step may feel uncertain and laden with doubts. Today, I want to explore with you how the lack of trust can not only wear down, but truly dismantle the foundations of any relationship, be it personal, professional, or romantic. Have you ever stopped to think about the role trust plays in our lives? Trust is the glue that holds people together. It's what allows us to sleep soundly at night, knowing that we are safe with the people we choose to have by our side. But what happens when this trust is broken? What occurs when doubt seeps into the cracks of our relationships? The answer, though complex, begins with a feeling of insecurity. Without trust, every action and every word is filtered through a lens of suspicion. Have you ever felt this way? Like you constantly need to verify the intentions or truths of the people around you. This state of constant vigilance is exhausting and can lead to severe emotional consequences such as anxiety and isolation. Now, let's consider trust not only as a necessity, but as an act of faith. Trust means believing in the word and actions of another person, even when we're not watching. Epictetus advises us, "Don't seek that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they happen, and you will be happy." This perspective can help us accept that while we should do our best to build and maintain trust, the ultimate outcome is not always under our control. This frees us to trust without the constant worry of being betrayed. Think with me about practical examples. In the workplace, for example, lack of trust can lead to excessive supervision, stifling creativity and initiative. In friendships, it can cause distancing and frequent misunderstandings. And in romantic relationships, well, mistrust can turn love into a minefield, where each interaction is a potential trigger for conflict. Now, a personal story that illustrates this idea. A very close friend began to doubt her partner. She noticed subtle changes in his behavior, and instead of confronting him with her insecurities, she chose to spy on him. This choice, though motivated by the fear of being hurt, only further deteriorated what was left of their connection. When the truth came to light, there was no trust left to sustain the relationship, and all that remained was resentment. So, what can we do to nurture and preserve trust? First, open communication is essential. Talking about our concerns and hopes can reinforce mutual trust. Second, be trustworthy. This means being consistent, honest, and transparent in our actions and words. Let's conclude this topic with a reflection. How can you strengthen trust in your own relationships today? It can start with something simple, like a sincere conversation or a small act of faith. And remember, building trust is an ongoing process that requires patience, understanding, and above all, courage. 9. Abuse. Abuse is a topic that unfortunately many still face in silence, but it is crucial to bring it to light to better understand and support those who go through such situations. Abuse, whether physical, emotional, sexual, or psychological, is a brutal invasion into a person's life. It not only hurts the body and mind, but also fragments the essence of the human being, robbing them of their sense of security and self-esteem. But have you ever wondered what the long-term effects of this devastation are on interpersonal relationships? Firstly, the impact of abuse often extends far beyond the moment or context in which it occurs. It creates invisible scars that can influence how someone sees themselves and how they relate to others. Trust, which we have already discussed as a pillar of healthy relationships, becomes an almost foreign concept for those who have suffered abuse. Imagine for a moment trying to build meaningful relationships when every approach is tainted by the fear of new trauma. Furthermore, abuse undermines the autonomy of the person. Those subjected to repeated abuse may begin to believe the negative and destructive messages conveyed by the abuser. "You're not good enough. You'll never be able to be independent," are phrases that may echo in the mind, limiting the ability to see and explore one's true potential. But how can we recognize the signs of abuse in relationships? Some indications include constant fear of a partner, friends or family, frequent excuses for injuries or unusual behaviors, social isolation, drastic changes in personality or self-esteem, and reluctance to discuss certain aspects of personal life. Faced with these realities, it is essential to talk about resilience and recovery. Each story of surviving abuse is a testimony of courage, strength, and the human capacity to overcome adversity. For those going through this, remember, you are not alone, and abuse does not define who you are. Here's a call to all of us. Let's be vigilant observers and reliable supports for our friends and family. Let's cultivate environments where people feel safe to share their experiences without judgment. And for you, who may be facing this harsh reality, I want to leave a message. It is possible to reclaim your dignity and rebuild your life. Seek support, whether from trusted friends, family, professionals, or wisdom. Your journey may be difficult, but every step you take towards recovery is an act of profound courage. How can we, as a community, strengthen our actions against all forms of abuse? How can we ensure that no one has to face this journey alone? Let's think about it together and use our voice and actions to make a difference. Open dialogue about abuse not only raises awareness, but can also save lives. And remember, curiosity and empathy are our great allies in building a more understanding and safer world for everyone. 10. Absence of growth or mutual support. Addressing the importance of personal growth and mutual support in relationships is delving into the heart of a healthy dynamic. Why is it vital to grow and support each other? How can the absence of these elements transform a vibrant relationship into something stagnant and demotivating? Let's unravel these questions together and discover how to cultivate relationships that not only survive but thrive over time. Think about this. What happens when you plant a seed and don't care for it properly? Without water, light, or nutrients, it doesn't flourish, right? Similarly, relationships need constant nurturing to grow. This includes encouragement, space for individual development, and of course, mutual support. As Seneca reminds us, wise men create new possibilities not only for themselves but for everyone. When we elevate ourselves, we elevate the world. Without these elements, our relationships risk becoming like a plant without water, wilted and lifeless. Now let's reflect. Have you ever felt stuck in a relationship where it seemed like time had stood still, where your dreams and aspirations seemed to always take a back seat? This is a clear sign that personal growth and mutual support are lacking. Healthy relationships are those in which both partners encourage each other to explore their interests, develop their skills, and pursue their goals. But what does mutual support really mean? It means being present, both emotionally and practically. It means celebrating each other's achievements, but also being there in times of failure or doubt. Mutual support is the reassurance of knowing that someone believes in you, even when you find it difficult to believe in yourself. Let's illustrate this with a personal story. I knew a couple who shared a hobby in painting. Initially, they painted together, but over time, only one of them continued to pursue this passion. The other, instead of feeling resentful or neglected, became the biggest fan and supporter of their partner. This attitude not only strengthened their bond, but also allowed both to find satisfaction in different roles within the same passion. If you're noticing signs of stagnation in your relationships, perhaps it's time for a frank conversation. Openly discussing needs and expectations can reignite the commitment to support and grow together. And don't forget, personal growth and mutual support are not just desirable, they're essential. 11. Persistent selfish behavior. When we think about the foundations of any healthy relationship, an equitable distribution of giving and receiving emerges as fundamental. Today, let's delve into how consistently selfish behavior can destabilize this balance, eroding the structure of mutual support that is crucial for the survival and prosperity of any relationship. Imagine a relationship where one of the partners always puts their own needs, desires, and priorities first, without considering the well-being or feelings of the other. This persistent behavior not only creates an unequal environment, but also sows feelings of neglect, resentment, and eventually alienation. But why is it so important to recognize and address this dynamic? Let's reflect a bit on the consequences of selfish behavior in a relationship. Firstly, it undermines trust, an essential pillar we discussed earlier. When a partner consistently prioritizes their own needs over those of the other, they send a clear message: "My needs are more important than yours." This can lead the other to question the value of their contribution to the relationship and, worse, their own self-esteem. Marco Aurelius, reflecting on life and human interactions, reminds us that our motivation should be common interest, saying, "Let the motivation for all your actions be common interest." This perspective is crucial to understanding that in a relationship, balance and mutual well-being should be the foundation for all actions. Furthermore, this type of behavior can hinder the personal growth of both individuals. In a healthy relationship, each partner should be a catalyst for the other's growth, encouraging their aspirations and celebrating their achievements. However, with a continually selfish partner, this support becomes one-sided, stagnating the other's personal development and, consequently, the relationship as a whole. Now let's think about solutions. How can we deal with selfish behavior in a relationship? The first step is open and honest communication. It is crucial to express how this behavior affects you and the relationship. Often, people are not aware of the impact of their actions until someone clearly points them out. Another strategy is to establish clear boundaries. Boundaries are essential for any healthy relationship and are especially important when dealing with selfish behavior. They not only protect your emotional well-being, but also teach the other what is acceptable and what is not within the relationship. To illustrate, allow me to share a personal story. Once, a close friend was in a relationship where they constantly felt marginalized by their partner's needs. After much reflection, they decided to establish firm boundaries, clearly expressing their own needs. Initially, it was a challenge, but over time, their partner began to recognize the importance of a fairer balance, which gradually transformed their dynamic for the better. In conclusion, I invite each of you to think about your own relationships. Is there a healthy balance between giving and receiving? How can you contribute to an environment where both feel valued and supported? Remember, a truly healthy relationship is one where generosity and support are reciprocal. Let's all aspire to build and maintain such dynamics in our lives. 12. Destructive communication. Have you all ever stopped to think about the impact of your words and how you express your thoughts and feelings? Destructive communication includes a variety of behaviors that not only hinder mutual understanding, but can also hurt and create lasting resentments. This can range from constant interruptions, sarcasm, and severe criticism to subtle word manipulation. One of the most harmful aspects of destructive communication is the inability to actively listen. When we speak without listening, we are essentially saying that the other person's viewpoint doesn't matter. This not only devalues the other person, but also prevents us from truly understanding their perspectives and feelings. Epictetus, a philosopher who teaches us a lot about the ethics of communication, once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen more and speak less." Think about it. How many times could a misunderstanding have been avoided if we had simply stopped to really listen to what was being said? Another striking characteristic of negative communication is the use of generalized criticism. Phrases that start with "you never" or "you always" tend to put the person on the defensive and generalize behaviors that may be specific or occasional. This can make the person feel judged and misunderstood, and often results in a larger conflict rather than a resolution. Now, let's bring a practical example. Imagine a couple where one partner often says, "You never pay attention to me." This statement, besides being a generalization, focuses more on accusing than on expressing a genuine need for attention. A more constructive approach could be, "I feel neglected when you look at your phone while we're talking. Can we find a time to talk without distractions?" This change in communication not only softens the tone, but also opens up space for a positive and joint solution. It's about turning a confrontation into a conversation and a problem into an opportunity for mutual growth. So if you notice patterns of destructive communication in your interactions, consider how you can change your approach. It can start with something as simple as thinking before speaking, focusing more on how your words may be received, and practicing empathy by putting yourself in the other person's shoes. To conclude, I invite you to reflect. How can we cultivate more respectful and constructive communication in our daily lives? How can we ensure that our words build instead of destroy? This is an invitation for all of us to think more deeply about the power of communication and to use it to strengthen, not weaken, the bonds that unite us. We conclude today by exploring the vital signs that indicate when it's time to reassess and possibly step away from relationships that do not serve your well-being. But remember, recognizing these signs is just the first step. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Join us as we continue to explore the power of Stoicism to create a life of peace, purpose, and personal power. See you in our next video. See you in